G'day guys, how's it going? My name is CJ. So I've already done a quick video talking about what it means to own a OnePlus 5 as an Australian consumer. Now, let's talk in general about owning this phone from day to day, 2 to 3 weeks down the track. Let's get started. So for the viewers that'll only watch this video for the first minute, what's the one outstanding feature that I can say about this OnePlus 5? It's that it's f***ing fast. Now for those of you that have stuck around, let's talk a little bit more about this phone. As with any device, the first thing anyone will notice about it is its design. And to address the obvious, yes, I can see why people are saying it looks like an iPhone, but in reality, aside from the pill-shaped camera module, there really isn't much in it. The overall shape is actually quite different, with the OnePlus 5 exhibiting a more tapered edge compared to the iPhone with its uniformly round shape. This results in two phones that feel really different in the hand. The tapered edge of the OnePlus 5 means it sits in the hand a little bit better, and the sharper edges means there's more grip. Ultimately, this leads to a more manageable phone compared to a phone like the iPhone, which is a little bit more round. And that moves us on to the next point when we compare it to the iPhone. The OnePlus actually sports similar disadvantages in that it has a fairly large screen bezel when you compare it to other 2017 flagships. It's a shame, but it's one of the main limitations of being a smaller player in this massive smartphone game. That is, not being able to access the latest and greatest in display technology. And this extends to the actual display itself. The OnePlus's 1080p AMOLED screen is very sharp. However, it still does lag behind other 2017 flagships that sport Quad HT screens. That being said, anyone that tells you that there is a massive perceptible difference between a Quad HD screen with a 1080p screen from general day-to-day use, that person is a liar and someone you don't want to associate with. In any case, it still holds its own with general day-to-day use with nice deep blacks and great contrast range, as is the case with most OLED screens. Also, there's been a little bit of controversy regarding Jello-gate. And actually, I think my phone exhibits features of Jello-gate, but I'm actually not too fussed about it. Let me explain why. Sure, it kind of looks funny at first, but as I've said in a previous video, the advantage of using a OnePlus or a Pixel phone is due to how fluid the interface feels. In this case, the smooth jello effect seems to add to this fluidity and momentum of the user experience. At least for me it does. Or cue the trolls who'll just say that it's me being in denial and that I've got a defective unit. But now turning to the user experience, the OnePlus is a truly pleasing phone to use from day to day. The Snapdragon 835 CPU, coupled with the Adreno 540, and in my case, the 8GB of RAM, means that you've got one of the snappiest and responsive examples of an Android phone on the market today. Navigating the phone is an absolute breeze, and there's been absolutely no hint of lag or stutter. Transitions and animations are smooth, quick, and RAM does a brilliant job at keeping plenty of apps in memory without any hint of any reboot. Outside of Google themselves, and maybe Motorola, OnePlus's Oxygen OS gives us one of the closest representations of vanilla Android. It runs Android 7.1.1, which isn't quite the bleeding edge of 7.1.2, and it actually does lag a little bit in terms of the security patches, where my phone is still sporting the May 2017 security patch. Now, when you compare to other OEM skins, Oxygen OS's customization options actually make sense, such as choosing to have on-screen buttons versus the physical capacitive buttons, or choosing a light and dark mode, or even customizing what icons show up on the status bar. It all works to improve the user experience. One issue I've noticed though is a lack of any easy Android assistant support. It definitely is a feature of this operating system, however, it does seem to be limited to US English. And the moment you choose a different system language, it reverts back to the standard Google search feature. Again, small gripe, but still an issue. An advantage of OnePlus sporting a recent version of Nougat means that you get a lot of the under the hood optimizations. And these aren't only limited to the overall smoothness of the device. You also get the aggressive doze features of Android Nougat. So whilst it has a modest 3300 mAh battery, you still get a decent amount of screen on time, with mine regularly rocking at around 5 hours with moderate to heavy use, and on some days with less heavy use, I can get up to more than 6 to 6.5 hours of screen on time. Then on days when you've completely smashed your phone, you've been streaming HD YouTube, non-stop on mobile data, regularly updating your Facebook and Twitter feeds, and you've been downloading all the albums on Apple Music or Spotify, you can use mind-blowingly fast dash charging to top yourself up. In my case, I've seen it go from flat to 50% in less than 30 minutes of charge. It's definitely one of the best features of the OnePlus phones. And on the topic of best features, OnePlus completely hyped up its dual camera capabilities. OnePlus, by making it public that you worked with DxOMark to optimize your camera capabilities, you've actually built yourself a pretty tall mountain to climb, and it's called hype. It does say a lot that even despite working with DxOMark, OnePlus 5 still wasn't able to clinch the top crown on their website, which, interestingly enough, is occupied by the HTC U11. Instead, OnePlus's camera is rated at 87, which is no mean feat. I mean, it's equivalent to the Samsung Galaxy S8. But as we know, laboratory numbers don't always tell the full story, and that's definitely the case here. One of the most important barometers for me when taking photos with a smartphone is the ease in which it can be used to take spontaneous moments in life. Those fleeting moments, whether it's your kid's first steps or whether it's your mate making an absolute fool of himself in the club, requires a camera that is quick to load, 2, one that is quick to shoot, and 3, have great image quality to boot. So you could have a camera that has some of the best image quality, but it's nothing if it doesn't load up properly and is ready to shoot straight away. And this is one of the key issues that I had with the Galaxy S8 and the S7. It's got one of the best cameras on the market right now, and it also has the easy double tap of the power button to launch the camera. But the S8 is consistently inconsistent. Sometimes it loads up instantly, and then other times it lags on the lock screen for a second or two before loading, and then when it actually does load, nothing happens when you hit the shutter button. Whereas with the OnePlus, the camera loads instantly with a double tap of the power button every single time. And I've also customized a double tap of the home button to also trigger the camera. So this gives me 2 easy ways of launching the camera, and each time the camera loads instantly without fail and the shutter button works every single time. Then in regards to image quality after you've hit the shutter button, both of the OnePlus 5 cameras do pretty well, and almost as well as the Pixel or the S8, G6 and the iPhone in ideal conditions. That is, situations where there's a lot of light, like daylight in outdoors or in a well-lit studio. Where the OnePlus 5 falls short is in low light. Neither lenses are optically stabilized, and even though the standard lens has a relatively large aperture of an f1.7, it alone isn't enough to capture enough light. Instead, the camera has to jack up the ISO and slow the shutter speed right down. So what this leads to are photos that are less detailed and softer because the phone is trying to compensate for this extra noise that's been in the image. Then the lack of optical image stabilization means that the photos are more prone to shake and blur as a result of the slower shutter speed. Each time I compared it to another flagship phone that had optical stabilization, the OnePlus 5 performed worse every single time in low light. And don't even bother shooting low light photography with the telephoto lens. One, the telephoto lens itself has an even smaller aperture of f2.6. So even if it does manage to take photos, they're going to be blurry, they're going to be noisy, and they're just going to be absolute rubbish. Then there's the second reason, is that the phone actually detects that there isn't enough light coming through and hitting the sensor. So instead, what happens is you get 2x zoom, but that's digital zoom. And that's not even mentioning the fact that using a longer focal length will lead to more pronounced handshake. But overall, you've got a phone that is, in most cases for general use, a very good camera that competes with flagships that are many hundreds of dollars more expensive. As a package, it still remains an incredibly compelling device. It runs like a dream, it handles well, has good battery life, takes decent photos, and looks pretty good to boot as well. Whilst it's not quite as cheap as the older OnePlus brethren, if you can get your hands on it, I wouldn't blame you. It's a great phone. Anyway, what do you think? Do you like this phone? Do you already own this phone? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Say good day, mum, for me. Cheers.